So my name is Bekka Kennedy. I'm sitting on this couch today to bring to you my story, which began at this time last year. It was really when it set out that I had made a decision that I was going to follow Christ. I come from Victoria. I was born and raised in Victoria. I went to school here, being a Christian school, from kindergarten to grade 9. I went to New Zealand for part of grade 10 and then attended a public school for grade 11 and 12. Through that time, I definitely learned about God, but I didn't know God at all. And then when I was 18, I started pursuing a life that revolved around snowboarding. That was my passion, it was my love, it still is. But from that, there was a pretty reckless life that I pursued. That lifestyle is a crazy one. You're living fast all the time in the fast lane, and I was an adrenaline junkie, so from that I was surrounded by guys and the lifestyle that was partying. So I was in a lot of relationships. I loved destructively, I would say, for sure. It all makes you who you are, so there's no regrets from that, but at the same time, it didn't set a value upon my life, and so in that time of my life, there was never any value. I was in Prince George. I'm a welder, so I work with Boilermakers often. And from about the time of 18, I'd say that I ran from life. Instead of embracing it and embracing God, I'd just keep running from Him. So for a while, it was drugs. Through my partying, I had a little bit of control because I'm a control freak, so I'd push it just to the very limit where I still had just the tiniest bit of grip on my life and not going too deep, but at the same time I'd push it to the ultimate until I was just almost over the edge. So drugs was a deep thing for me. I dated guys that sold them and just traveled in that crowd. I gave up on that after a while. Probably took about 4 or 5 years, I'd say, of watching my close friend passed away, and she overdosed on cocaine. So that was a point that hit me, and I kind of woke up and realized, I need to do something about my life, but it was still me doing it. It was still always me. It wasn't that I thought, God, this God that I've been brought up to hear about can change things for me. It was still always myself. So there was a job that took me to Prince George, and it was funny how I look at it now, because what happened was my friend, a welder, he had found a place and let me know about it, and it was a suite in a house. So I emailed this couple that he'd passed along the name to me, and they had already given this suite to the guy because he called the day before me, and they liked me quite a bit through our conversation, so they offered me a room in their house for the period of time that I was working in Prince George. And it turned out that they were a pastor. Well, it was a pastor and his wife, Tim and Sandra. And when I look at it, it's incredible how God just orchestrated that whole plan, that I would end up in the lowest point of my life in this pastor's house. And through that experience, we didn't really even talk much about God, but just being in a house that was filled with His presence was the greatest thing. So from that, things kind of got lower and lower. Life was getting messier and messier for me, and I think God was just taking everything and crushing it around me and deciding that I had taken enough of my life and ignored Him for long enough, and basically He was being a father and laying down the law and saying enough is enough, listen up and take notice of me. I'm here, I want you, and you just need to recognize that. So I still could have ran, but I'd just done it for so long that it just hit a point where I needed to submit. So that was my first step. That wasn't anything instant. It was just over a few weeks, I'd say, that I realized I needed to make a change. From that, I came to conference, and now I see too that at the time I don't think I really knew what it was, but that was the first time that the Holy Spirit touched my soul. I was open to it, which was something that I needed to be at for it to occur, but He touched my soul and just started reforming me. So I got baptized in January, and all of it has just being instigated by submission. I really had had enough of controlling my own life and decided to let God take the helm pretty much. It's hard. Day by day, it's really hard. I have my moments where I want to take back the reins and fight for my own way, but it's not worth it. And that's something that I know, that from being so broken, it's never going to be a way that I can do again. I've got to have God at the helm of my life. Otherwise, it just doesn't run properly. It's like a machine with no grease. And now I'm an intern this year. Something I never thought I'd be. I'm kind of old to be an intern, but it's awesome. The plans that he has for you are different, and they're unique for each and every one of us, and you only get to experience them when you finally let go and let God, that classic saying.